So, Shannon, what do you think here? Should the Bucs be 3-point underdogs in this game?
I don't think they should, but the odds makers are saying the Bucs have been bad all year. We're not just going to look at an isolated incident in which Tom Brady and this offense seem to find their rhythm against another sub-500 team in the Carolina Panthers and say, you know what? All is repaired. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are ready to take off. That's what the odds makers are saying. We've seen a large sample size. We've seen a body of work which consists of over 17 games. Yep. We're not going to say one game and all things have been refixed. Now, I'm looking at, and I'm also looking at the Cowboys. Yep. I'm looking at what Dak has been playing like, and it's like, I'm thinking to myself, it should be a one-point game or even a pick-em ball game. All right. But considering all things, the Cowboys have been a little bit more consistent, the last couple of weeks notwithstanding. But if you look at body of work, Skip, I believe the Cowboys have been more consistent than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the odds makers say we're going to take the Cowboys' consistency over the 17 games versus the Buccaneers' inconsistency over 17 games. Skip, it's hard to believe that the Bucs have fixed everything that's wrong with them one game. So basically, that seems to be from everything that I've read and from what I've been hearing is that it's all repaired. After that Carolina, Tom Brady looked like Tom Brady. Skip, over his first 2 seasons, Tom Brady had 26 touchdowns and 5 interceptions when targeting Mike Evans. This season, even after Week 17, that monster game, he has 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions when targeting Mike Evans. Got it. So for me, no. The Cowboys, they don't do well on the road in playoff games. If I'm not mistaken, the last road playoff game they won was that Super Bowl year when they went to San Fran and beat the 49ers. Wow, you're going all the way back. That's the last time they won a road playoff game. I'm sorry I got to go that far back.
You're going back to 92?
Okay, well.
You mean the breakthrough season when they went out there and beat Steve Young and Jerry Rice?
Yeah, that last time.
Okay, all right. I was there.
Oh, wow. Only the Lions have a longer losing streak on the road than the Cowboys. Yeah, they said last time they won a road playoff game, they beat Steve Young. Most of the Cowboy players weren't even born when that happened.
Huh. Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Because then they got more dominant, and then they're just winning
at home. Yeah.
Okay, because that year they were clearly inferior to San Francisco until that day at that game, place. Because I think San Francisco was fairly heavily favored, maybe by 5 or 6 points.
Yep. Cowboys 8-1 at home, 4-4 on the road. Okay.
That was the year they broke through because they got Charles Haley away from San Francisco. They broke through a year before they were ready to. They had come of age right before your very eyes, before you thought they would.
Because in '91 they went to Detroit and got run off the field.
Did they? Ooh, I was there for that one. And it wasn't about Barry Sanders, it was about Eric Kramer.
He
just threw a party on him, and maybe the greatest party he ever threw in his career. But okay, now back to the question: should Dallas be a 3-point favorite on the road at Tampa Bay? Well, I tell you, I always try to guess what the spread will be before it comes out. My initial guess, now this is going back 2 weeks ago, so I hadn't witnessed that nightmare in Washington.
Right.
I thought Dallas would be a 7-point favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I really did, because Dallas, on paper, if I'm just doing it on paper, is way better than the Buccaneers.
Right.
The Buccaneers have been a bad football team all year. We talked and talked and talked about it. Brady tries to rise above it, and occasionally he did, and occasionally he didn't.
Right.
But what Todd Bowles is saying is true. All they have to hang their helmet or hat on is, as he said, our guys are resilient. They didn't blink. We didn't blink. Well, he says we stay in every game, even though it may not be clean all the way. We find a way to be in it till the end, and we just have to make a play to win it. Well, I'm looking at what happened. They lost 9 games. Right. They won 8, but they lost 9. And the best game they played was probably the opening night at Dallas. It was 19-3 Tampa Bay. Right. Here comes Dallas again. What goes around came back around. Okay, so then we got the loss to Green Bay at home. It was 14-12, but Brady has the late drive and goes down, and they got to go for 2. And Hainsey, the new center, who'd never played center, he's clapping for the ball, and he doesn't snap it, and they get a 5-yard penalty delay, and it's back, and they misfire. Okay, so they lose 14-12. Then Kansas City went there, and I thought it was pretty dominant Kansas City, but it was 41-31, and Brady hung in there, and there was early in the fourth quarter, you thought, okay, he's going to have to go crazy here, but they hung in the game. But they lost by 10. Then at Pittsburgh, they lose 20-18, and they had chances, and they just didn't cash late. At Carolina, they lost 21-3, but if you look, it's 14-0 going to the fourth, and they hit a field goal, so it's 14-3, and you're thinking, okay, maybe Brady's going to get hot and do something the way he got hot and did something against Carolina in the final game that mattered, but he didn't. And they lost 21-3, but it didn't seem that bad. Then Baltimore, remember that was a Thursday night. It was 27-22. They kind of hung in there, but Baltimore is just clearly better, and Lamar was better.
I think they scored a touchdown late, Skip, to make it 22 and then try the onside.
Then at Cleveland, they end up losing in overtime. I thought they should have won the game. It's 23-17. And then the one nightmare debacle game, they go to San Francisco. They got outclassed. They got run off the football field by Brock Purdy. It wasn't close because it was over by halftime, and it wound up 35-7. So that's the one X game where you just say, okay, that one you weren't resilient in. You didn't have a chance to win that one at all. And then the Cincinnati game, you know, it's like good and awful. But in the first half, they had 17-3 because I thought Brady played maybe it was his best half of the year. He was 17-23 for almost 200 yards against a really good Cincinnati defense. 17-3 Tampa at halftime, and then Brady just completely unraveled in the third and early fourth quarter. Gio Bernard missed the fake punt snap. You remember it hit him in the face. He wasn't ready. Okay, that started it, and then Brady turns it over 3 times, which is not like him, and they crumbled and lost 34-23. But you can argue they were in position to win the game. And then I'm not counting the Atlanta game because Brady was out with 4 minutes to go in the first half. But the point is, I like what Todd Bowles said. That's all they got. But if I look at Pro Football Focus grades for this team, they're horrible. No, seriously.
They are,
It should be where Dallas should be favored by 7 because Dallas just clearly, in every way, shape, and form, is better than Tampa in every category.
But the odds makers also sees that the Cowboys are the Cowboys, and based on their history and the way they play, especially on the road, and where Dak's played in his playoff career, and the way they played down the stretch. Skip, the odds makers got a fact. They're just not trying to give you money. They got to factor all those things in there. So they're trying to, like, hedge it. Okay, we're making 3 points favorite because I will say this, all things being equal, the Cowboys have been more consistent over 17 games than the Buccaneers.
Sure they have. Like, way more. Okay, so Pro Football Focus grades. Brady's offense is graded 23, ranked 23rd in grade. Well, that's horrible. The defense is ranked 20th in grade. Well, it used to be a strength of the team. It's no longer a strength of the team. Why is the offense so bad? Well, the major reason is they can't run a lick. They're dead last in rushing, both in grade and in yards.
They're bad in a lot of categories. Third down conversion, Skip, they're bad. Red zone offense, they're bad.
All bad. It's just bad, except in passing, they're graded 6th overall. Because that's all they do. Okay? And that guy can still throw it. And if you give him a little bit of time, he can still hurt you. But in receiving, their core is graded 19th because they have no speed in their Godwin's possession. And Mike Evans can trick you. You can do the pump and go with him, but he's got to set you up with a 4-yard catch and a 7-yard catch and all the underneath stuff that he does is possession. And then if you do the pump and go, he can get you. And he got Carolina 3 times in that game, as you know. Okay, then you look on defense. The pass rush, as I brought up earlier, it's ranked 29th in the league. They can't rush the passer, but their coverage has been pretty good. It's graded 8th. So I do like the back end of the defense when it's healthy, but it hasn't been healthy all year.
Well, you going to have Carlton Davis?
I don't know. His shoulder is hurt because he hasn't been able to play now for 2 weeks. I have no idea. I don't know. You're going to have Hainsey back at center, or is Ryan Jensen going to be able to come back from the quote-unquote football dead because he was gone for supposedly the whole year, and all of a sudden he's practicing. So I don't know. But the point is, all these numbers say this is a bad football team against a very good football team that lost its way down the stretch in games at Tennessee that didn't matter that much, and at Washington, which didn't matter at all. So that's okay. Does the world not overreact to the Cowboys, good or bad, like unlike any other team in pro football? There's nothing like the overreaction to the Cowboys. Am I right?
Okay? No question.
Because everybody just goes way over here or way over here. They're great or they're get them out of my sight. Right now, it's get them out of my sight. And I'm a victim of that, too. I'm a prisoner of that sort of over-emotion because I'm emotional to start with. And when it comes to them, I overreact. And I'm overreacting to Washington because it was just...
I don't think that's an overreaction, Skip.
Okay, well...
They played bad.
Well,
and the game... And even though, the game would not have had any significance to the standing. Philly won, so it rendered whatever. But you can't look like that the last game of the season.
I got it. They didn't look bad. They looked pathetic.
They did.
They did. There was nothing to like about that game. 4 out of 18 on third down, and you let Sam Howell go up and down the field against you?
Yep.
You're kidding. What is it a way to springboard into the playoffs?
No,
they can't feel good about themselves, and I can't feel great about the quarterback. Okay, so why is the spread only -3? I can tell you why. Because Tom Brady has won 35 playoff games in his career, and Dak has won 1.
Yeah.
So it's 35-1.
Yeah.
And that pulls that spread back into reasonable. It's like -3.
Because you let's say for the sake of argument, if Tampa had Dallas's record, I guarantee you the spread would be more than 3 points. Bucs favor.
Oh, would it?
I bet you that.
Oh man, you got that right. Well, it'd be one of those prohibitives where you'd say
it'd be 7 to 10 points.
It would be. It might be double digits.
Yeah.
It well might be, because Brady's reputation in the playoffs is once he steps on your neck, he will step hard.
They give him 3 points just for being Tom Brady.
Yep.
So
I would agree. So again, my original projection was -7, Dallas -7, but only because these last 2 games, it's Joshua Dobbs and Sam Howell. That's where I said, okay. And I can't put a whole lot of stock. As happy as I was about Philadelphia on Christmas, what was it, Eve?
Yeah.
Christmas Eve. It was Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
And he threw for 341.
Right.
So he went up and down the field.
Right.
Dak was great. That one throw to T.Y. Hilton, I don't know, 30-30? Is that not the throw of the year for Dak Prescott?
Yep.
Maybe one of the throws of his career.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, well, I love that. So it felt great that night until you sit back and say, yeah, but Jalen wasn't there, right?
Right.
Okay, so he wasn't there. Well, who was? Well, all the rest of them were. And the Eagles' defense is overrated, but I've said that from the start.
Special teams is overrated, too.
They're overrated. So my team flexed its firepower against Philadelphia, but there's always an asterisk, and the asterisk was Gardner Minshew. And then you saw what he did against New Orleans. He couldn't get it home.
This would be very disappointing if you lose this game. Your season, because Jerry started talking about Super Bowls and everybody talking about Super Bowls. You lose this game, Skip. Like I said, and we talked about this, and I'm sure we have a lot more to talk about it next week if you were to lose. I just don't see how Mike McCarthy keeps this job. I
don't either. And my only metallic silver lining to this conversation of what if we lose, he has to lose his job. Because
I just don't.
I still don't even know what he does. I'm serious.
Right.
And you have to look at what happened at Washington, and you have to place some blame on him because it's up to the head coach to get people ready to play a game that doesn't matter, but it matters to you.
Right.
It matters to your future. So you have to instill that message with some fear factor. They don't fear him.
Right.
They don't even listen to him.
Back-to-back double-digit winning seasons. You hadn't had those since the 90s.
And?
Jerry's not going to be happy.
No.
He's not going to be happy because he was talking real big, Skip, early on.
Was he? Ooh, was he? And he should have been. Yeah. I was good with it, but I'm not going to be good if they lose.
No.
Because they're up against a team that is not close to as good as they are, except for the quarterback.
Yeah.
And sort of the grit of the team, and it's like, there's still a lot of guys left who won the Super Bowl 2 years
Skip,
ago.
they're very few. The difference is between Brady and a lot of the top quarterbacks, they can pull their team along.
They can.
Can Dak pull his team? Can Dak pull the Cowboys? If they're not playing good defensively or the running game, can he say, you know what, guys, get on my back and let's ride this and let's ride the victory?
I don't know. I still have this lingering memory of him running back in the huddle after he threw his pick six. He almost threw 2 in a row.
Yes.
And he runs back in the huddle, and he's dapping everybody up like, we're good, we're good. And I'm like, don't do that now. Just don't do it now. Just go play. Come on, pull yourself up out of it.
We're not good.
Okay.
This Bucs-Cowboys matchup unfolds in primetime Monday night, guys, at Raymond James Stadium, which, by the way, the Bucs are 4-3 in the postseason there. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Subscribe here to get the very latest from Skip and Shannon. Plus, go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.